Good morning, beloved ones. I was really aghast at the kind of unfoldings last week in Karnataka protest over hijab. And the way, political parties are handling this and the kind of euphoria that's being raised and the kind of venom being poured. It seems like it's a nefarious acts are being engineered by certain vested interest groups. And Karnataka, especially Bangalore, which has been the hub of tech giants, and most of the startups, as far as software companies are concerned, they had their inception and their good harvest in the sense of software engineers and technocrats being produced. It so far has been so amicably settled, and it has been such a nice and wonderful bohemi among the people of, and we never had any kind of animosity, kind of resentment or kind of personal misgivings and reservations for a particular community until unless it's fomented by certain political parties or certain leaders who are being handled, actually mishandled by the mainstream media and the majoritarian state at the center. And this is definitely going to blow out of proportion. And it could prove to be a perfect recipe for a total devastation of our secular democratic fabric. India has never been under such duress crisis of a sort, and this crisis is brewing up only to raise its ugly head in the long run, because when majoritarian government is after only one hidden agenda, how to divide and rule, this has to happen in a day. And chanting of mantras in the saffron scarves and dancing and climbing to a flag staff and putting a saffron flag, and that too in response to those women or school girls who are simply trying to safeguard their modesty, and they have been wearing hijab for hundreds of years, and there's never been any kind of special disgust or resentment or abhorrence regarding women in general and Muslims in particular being modest in their looks and their their attempts at just safeguarding their chastity at any cost. So it's so deplorable and really despicable fellows around. In fact, they have been hired as goons and they have been wearing saffron turbans, and in fact there was a video that called for removal of those saffron because they have been hired for a while only to counter those girls who have been flaunting their scarves. In fact, they had a novel idea of donning the national flag as the scarf. But look at this very motive, the good intention of wearing the scarves. It's nothing to stand out in the identity of being Muslims or being contrary to the other religion. In fact, I'm reminded of a proverbial saying, and that's the hard fact, that any society can always measure by, the barometer of any modest society is its appearance of the women. If women in general, they have decent deportment and their overbearings are not contrary to what they're supposed to appear. And in fact, the whole world has come to realize that apart from the choice of having to wear whatever suits you or whatever you like, people should always be given choice about the foods, their clothes, and as far as practicing of the religious rites are concerned, probably this could be the last thing to think of. And as long as we look modest and we guard our chastity, and especially for women, it's not about men. If young boys are donning their scarves, and it's not that they're hiding something from the public gaze, and they don't have to really bother about the chastity of their being or their appearances, because women in general are supposed to look modest in every society, whether it's Hebrew and Jews or Hinduism, or even if you go to Vedas and all, there has been some sort of costume, probably not a formal one, but women have always been regarded as devis and someone to be revered of. And they don't have to be stark naked or to be fully exposed so that they tempt the gaze of and people start eyeing and ogling at them and with a bad intention of casting an evil eyes on them. So whenever there is any crux of the situation or any contentious issue in India, obviously the apex body, judiciary, has to intervene. Sometimes it has been really hard to come up with justifiable and judicial decisions, and they had to cater to the masses' frenzies, and Ayodhya verdict was one of them, where the authenticity of the site was disregarded, and the decision was brought in favor of the Mediterranean simply because the plausible explanation was to safeguard the interests of the masses, and they didn't want people to be divided in the lines of religious sects and beliefs, and so that was fine. In fact, the minority community, they graciously offered, and they even agreed to be compensated of the land and all. Now, once again, this contentious issue has been lying in the court, and the verdict is being awaited. And although BJP government, Karnataka BJP government has been silent, largely silent, because awaiting the decision by the Karnataka High Court on a petition by 5 women from government college in Udupi, those who have been barred from entering the campus because they were wearing scarves, and that's made them stand out from the rest. And the college has a right to prescribe a uniform, a kind of outfit that fits their college customs or their college rules and regulations. So I understand that every college institution has some kind of leverage and discretion at what kind of outfits can be allowed, cannot be allowed, as far as safeguarding decency or not discriminating the basis of the flaunting of the dresses. So, but this hijab has been worn for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it has become a part of the general dress that any Muslim girl or woman has been putting on, and there has been no restrictions or reservations or kind of disgruntlement. I would say this is a self aggrandizement or disgruntlement from certain corners of, and is being fomented, and the fury and the frenzy mob have been let loose on those kind of innocent girls who have been denied the basic fundamental right to education. And even the minority institutions, they have the stipulated discretions were prescribing the dress codes and all that. So the order is still not being announced by High Court, but pending further hearing, the matter is going to exacerbate. And the Students' Committee has requested public at large to maintain peace and tranquility, because even the court judges, they have to look into the nitty-gritties and the statutes and the prevailing social temperature. I mean, I would say the kind of moods and what is paramount for any wings of the government, the judiciary, executive, or legislative, is to maintain peace and tranquility and to foster kind of brotherhood among people of the conflicting or differing faiths and beliefs. So even the court has full faith in the wisdom and virtue of the public at large, and probably if it is not mishandled any further and doesn't go into the hands of those hired goons, probably this dysphoria should die down over the time. It has surfaced in other parts of the world, like France. They were insistent and actually hell-bent upon banning hijab, scarf, and because it somehow distinguish these women and girls from the rest of the community, and they would like to go for a complete immersion. And even the Modi government is actually toying with the idea of bringing about a uniform civil code, which will do away with all the kind of distinctions that underlie the fundamental principle of state policies. So the very secular fabric of being tattered and is being given a communal color, and obviously a confrontation turning aggressive. The whole world is watching. In fact, today there is a congressional briefing and there is a webinar, and there are prominent scholarly speakers like Ilham Omar. He's a member of the US Congress, and the title of the congressional briefing today at night is "Worsening Hate Speech and Violence in India." Recently, it has been witnessed from all corners, and every society in India is being almost partitioned or divided on the basis of either its caste, subcastes, or religions, or in the name of what they call love jihad, and kind of even coaching institutions we have been producing IAS officers and by the Muslim communities. They are on the brink of the survival, and they're likely to get extinct without government support. And if they are sidelined, they're not brought at par with the majority community, they're struggling economic situations, financial sorry state, and they're losing the jobs. Although there are no jobs in India for even the Mediterraneanism, and they're living under the false illusion that this government is going to bring succor anyway. I don't see, because IMF report says that India stands 150 ranking overall, and Bangladesh has left India far behind in its progress. And even the current budget allocations, all that speaks volumes about the tattered economic state of India, how its MSMEs are struggling, how the rich Adani becomes the richest person in India, leaving Ambani's behind. And in fact, it's ironical, in fact, satirically, it's quite, it's an eye-opener that during pandemic, this Adani's wealth has quadrupled, in fact. And he laid claims to $80 billion in altogether his net worth, and he has been amassing wealth by accumulating wealth through ports and energy sectors. And so obviously, this government is pro-corporate. It's not a government, by the people or for the people. It's a government by the corporates and for the corporates, and it's corporatocracy instead of the democracy. So today's, this Amnesty International, it's co-organized by Amnesty International USA, Genocide Watch, and the other noted speakers today is being conducted by Anjana Chatterjee. She is a scholar from US Berkeley, and Noam Chomsky, our professor. He's also going to talk. And then we have Harsh Manda, who has been named for, in fact, the highest honor of India, for the Peace Prize and all. And then we have John Sifton. He is Asia's advocate for direct human rights. Why there is a need for these outside speakers, scholar people, to raise an eyebrow what's happening in India's internal affairs. So it suggests that it's no more internal affairs in India. In fact, once Obama, she had as counselor as a Muslim woman, and she was wearing a scarf, and she was posed a question that, being so intelligent, why are you wearing a scarf and wrapping around the head? That's like, it looks like quite uncivilized and outdated. And she happened to remark that over the centuries we have learned to be civilized, wearing good clothing, being presentable, safeguarding a modesty and chastity. And if I have to relinquish those kind of adornments or kind of ornaments, I would be relegated to those barbaric age. So wearing scarf is not a retrogressive or in the true sense, as long as it doesn't mar your intelligence, and you don't have to identify yourself, or your intelligence doesn't come from what you wear. In fact, your identity can be established only when you look presentable, modest, and also ward off the evil, eyeing or ogling of people. I don't know which society would permit women to display their organs and try to invoke and seduce, and so any decent society would not go to the extent of leaving the other sex fully exposed at the mercy of the men or the other sex. I'm not going to preach why it's important, why it's necessary to safeguard our modesty, especially in the public places. Colleges are like public places. You may have your own choices while you are staying indoors, and you do whatever like, but in the public places we are supposed to dress decently. So anywhere in France, and there's burkini, and there are sports people, there are jet fighter planes, pilots, and there have been men and women of repute and women of excellence. I always bring in accolades, but their outfits have never been questioned. This is happening only in India, and that too. Think of Bangalore, where it has been the hotbed, the hot seat of startups from A to Z of the software company. Now, what's happening? Students, they are being poisoned, and the students are pitted against each other's community. So talking about their job opportunities and their training on campus, and they're getting the right kind of education, they're being being prepared to fight against their own brothers and sisters. So this right-wing groups in Udupi and Chikam objected to Muslim girls wearing hijab to the classes. Now, I wonder whether these students, they really want the women not to wear it, or they are being instigated to do that. So obviously this protest is spreading like wildfire to everywhere, and this doesn't augur well for the rest of the country. Tomorrow could be the other states, and this confrontational position by saffron scarves and shouting slogans, and then a girl a helpless girl has to shout Allahu Akbar and just in defense. And this is a very disturbing, deeply demoralizing, and really I was stunned, in fact shocked to see that. Place like Bangalore, I have been to Bangalore once or twice, and regarding the, looking at the education institutions and medical colleges and all that. So it has a big name for software companies, a big name for high caliber education institutions, medical engineering, and all over India. They flock there, and they are being, it's a top class city which boasts of having all kinds of ultra infrastructure and with good governments. So the government must respond to this kind of crisis, handling it and trying to bring about amicable solutions, so that this kind of furor is never brought back in the mainstream. Obviously the rest of India is also not immune to what's happening in Karnataka. And for all the BJP ruled states, we find some sort of gimmick, and where there are forces afoot to upset, unsettle, and bring about row over petty things. Electioneering, whether it's electioneering or whether it's. Now, if the Prime Minister of India says they can be identified by their dress, that speaks volumes about the kind of psychology he's suffering from. And then he blames the past 70 years of lost years by Congress and all that. And he's imagining things in the parliament as if, just imagine had Congress not been in, it's like, had Modi not been born, had BJP not even come into existence. What's the point of having such kind of colored future and unrealistic situation? Imagining, deal with the present, talk about the economic progress, think of the promise you have that 5 trillion economy and bringing about basic changes in the economic structure and social structure, and education for everyone, and Beti Bachao and all that kind of, these are empty slogans or what? Now this comes to Beti Bachao and Beti Padhao, they're not being even allowed to attend to the classes in normal condition. So the government must intervene, and wherever such kind of nefarious activities are undertaken by certain vested pressure groups or political parties, it has to be shunned, and it has to be nipped in the bud. Otherwise, we're going to lose all the cherished ideals and values that India has been known for all over the world, and despite being the most robust economy and the kind of big as a leader of the nation and as a guru of the world and all that, those will be only empty words. Wishing the very best of luck, and in favor, the judgment in favor of, and moreover, it's not the court alone. It's such kind of bone contentious issues can only be resolved amicably by, fostering brotherhood, fraternity, and by realizing that each individual has his right, and fundamental right, in fact, basic right, to choose what to dress, how to dress, what to eat, how to, inculcate good habits, and how to live up to his own future and prospects. Wishing the very best and an early settlement of this contentious issue. And there are so many more in India. India is grappling with too many issues these days, and it doesn't bring any hope if it continues like this. Hoping for the best in the likelihood of, and hoping for a change in the stance of the government, and a change in the dealing and treatment, and the hegemonistic apex body, the Supreme Court and High Courts, and judicious review of such issues. And thank you very much for being